Hey, this is Suki. I am here to do a little stitching video to show, I guess, how I stitch. Uh, I'll talk a little bit. I don't know how long I'll do this. I don't exactly have it planned. I just figured I'll sit down and I'll stitch and talk about what it is that I'm doing. In my next floss tube video, I'll show my setup a little bit because it is a little different, I feel like, than how you might stitch, but I'm not going to do that today because my camera is set and I'm not changing it. But my pattern is up here in front of me on a tablet, and obviously this is my chart. I've got my needle. My ort jar sits up on this little table that my pattern is on. My scissors I tend to keep on my knee, which you can't see, but it's, oops, sorry, I bumped you. I'm gonna have to try hard not to do that. It's right, my knee is right below here, and you'll see why I keep it there. And my threads are to my right side. I am left-handed, and I stitch two-handed with my right hand on top. So I'm just going to get started. My threads are all on Annie keepers, and like I said, I'm gonna film a floss tube next week, and I'll show you a little bit better my whole setup when I'm moving my camera around. My needle threader broke, and I much prefer to use a needle threader, but it broke and I haven't replaced it. So now I stitch 2 strands over 1 on whatever count this is, 28 count. I'm using a pre-started thread, so I'm not doing a loop start, I'm just going to pull it through. So 2 over 1 tent stitch. And I don't normally talk while I'm doing this, so I feel like this is going to be a little bit slower than what I normally stitch, which I think is okay, because those of you who have asked me questions about how I stitch or wanting to see how I stitch, this might be useful. I should see if I can zoom in a little bit though in a second. Well, not just a second, more than a second, so that I can give you the big picture of how I stitch before moving to a closer view. I like 28 count 2 over 1 tent stitch because I feel like it gives me really nice coverage without being too bulky, and oh, there was another reason I was just thinking of, but now I forget it, because I can't hold that many things in my brain at once for very long. You don't get the fabric show through on 28 count that I get with 25 count. It's not that I still have some on 25 count because it was the fabric I had, and they are charts that look pretty good with some fabric show through like that. And given the proper distance from the chart or from your stitching, you don't see it as much. But 28 count's kind of my jam. I'll explain how I choose what color I stitch, and as best I can without showing the pattern, I'll explain how I go about stitching it, the color, this just orients you to how it is I stitch. And if watching me stitch is something you're interested in, I can make more of these, but probably without the talking. Because I really just don't have the brain power for that. Well, not the brain power, it's that I don't really have the brain capacity. I hit my head twice in 2020. And I've never actually gone to get it looked at, but I still experience effects from it. So it's more of a brain capacity, but I do have a doctor's appointment for some neuropsych testing coming up. All right, so there was our first color. Let's see. I don't know if I can zoom this. Oh, I can. Oh. It's going crazy. I don't think it liked me doing that. Okay, we're gonna have to handle it here. I can't show you it really any closer. Okay, so I use Pattern Keeper. If you're familiar with Pattern Keeper, you'll know what I'm talking about. But if you don't, you can set up these diagonal lines on Pattern Keeper, and you can show both diagonal lines that go this way and that go this way, and you can even put both of them up at a time, which might be a cool way to try stitching in a way. I don't know. Some people like to do super cool ways of stitching, but I just have one diagonal, and I run my diagonal lines this way. I think only for the reason is that I think of my patterns up here to down here. That's the only reason why I run my diagonals this way, but I don't exactly stitch in that kind of diagonal. I just choose my colors from that diagonal. So I find I stitch one seam at a time, so right here is what I'm working on, and I run the diagonals, and whatever the next color in the diagonal, I work from this way to this way. I pick that color and then I stitch it wherever it can be stitched, and that's it. So my next color is like right in here. Color 469. And I already have, so if I have a previously used thread, I will use those. So I don't always start with the loop start, but if it's a fresh thread, I use a loop start. But this is max color, so oftentimes I'll have pre-loved strands of thread to use up. Oh man, I missed my needle threader. I will need to go to the store and get another one. Okay. And all I do when I use pre-loved thread is I poke my needle up in the stitch so that I can see where I need to run my threads behind. And then I just find the best path through the color. I don't jump too far. I only like to jump like one block over any of the surrounding blocks. So I will end a thread if it goes beyond that. It looks like for this color, I can start here and then work my way around the vase this way, like that. And then there's a few colors down in here, a few stitches that I can reach. So that is what I am going to do. My diagonals, well, my tet stitches, I mean, I go bottom right to top left. So they slant this way, which is the last leg. It's my top leg of my full cross whenever I have a full cross. My first leg goes this way and my second leg goes this way. Actually, I go bottom up each time. Doesn't matter. So when I first did tent stitch, doing it the other way, which is how a lot of people will do it, is their bottom leg of their cross. It looked odd to my eye and it really bothered me. So I switched it and did the top leg, and I had no problem. It looked the same to my eye. Now right here there's a section I'm going to be working this way, and so instead of going bottom right to top left, I'm actually going to work top left to bottom right so that the legs of my stitches don't elongate funky. If you don't understand what I mean by that, let me know and I can make a video specific for that. But basically, the stitch that you come from and the stitch that you go to, so each stitch connects to each other, and it matters where you come from and where you go to and how it pulls on your stitch that you're currently stitching. So I will switch it up depending. So now I've made it over here and I'm going to work my way down, and I'm going to switch back to my bottom right to top left. Let's see, let me mark off my stitches. What's... Where am I? Oh, right here. And that is basically how I stitch. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I do. That might need an explanation or pointing out. You can see why I put my scissors on my knee. Now this is a small thread. Some people might not keep it, but I will, because with Max Color you never know when you just have a ninja stitch that would be really useful to have to save on floss. So I do that. And I will just work my way doing that. This next color is just right. So we just did 469 and now I'm going to do 471. All of the ones, actually I don't want to use this one. This is a short pre-loved thread, but I have more stitches here than I'm going to need for that. So I just pull it up. This one's not coming out nicely, but normally they come up really nice. There we go. I really love the loop start method. I like that I can start it from the front, but I find I don't often do that because, well, it's pretty easy for me to flip over my work, but also, oh, that's splitting the floss, but also because when I do it from the front, sometimes, like especially when it's in a already stitched area and I'm finding one of those stitches in the middle, when I go back down, my hand's in the way, but when I go back down, it'll catch on other threads and doesn't lie very well. So a lot of the times I just don't pull it all the way up, come back down, catch it, pull it through, and I'm done. The way my stand is, I don't ever tighten up my rods to my frame or my stand. So it is very easy for me to flip my work over and access the back. Well, I can't think of anything else I do that I haven't already talked about or shown. If you have any questions, hit me up, leave a comment, or you can send me a DM on Instagram at the Brown-Eyed Stitcher, and we can chat. I'm always up for that. And if there is something specific you'd like a further explanation, like a video explanation on, oh, that's in the wrong spot, then let me know that too, and I will figure out the best way to do that. So, I'll see you next time.